There is a fish in the open ocean that should not exist. One heavy enough to rival a small SUV, built with no teeth, no claws, no venom, and no real tail. And yet it gets bitten, torn, and mutilated by sea lions and sharks over and over across its life, and simply refuses to die. Stranger still, this same defenseless giant has been found floating hundreds of kilometers from shore, sometimes drifting into water it should never survive, and even turning up in places that have baffled scientists for decades. Why would an animal built with almost no defenses survive an environment that kills everything else that shows this much weakness? The answer will change how you think about survival itself. For centuries, sailors who spotted this creature basking motionless at the surface assumed it was dying or already dead. Its scientific name, Mola, comes from the Latin word for millstone, a nod to its flat, grey, almost circular shape, like a great stone disc set adrift in the sea. In parts of Europe, it earned similarly blunt nicknames tied to its strange, truncated body. Early naturalists gave it a simpler label that stuck, the swimming head, because that is essentially what it is. Evolution built this animal with no true tail. Instead, its rear end tapers into a strange, rudder-like structure called a clavus, as if the builder ran out of material halfway through and simply sealed the fish off where the tail should have started. To understand why this design should not work, you have to understand the scale involved. An adult ocean sunfish can weigh over 2,000 kilograms, the equivalent of a fully grown white rhinoceros, suspended in open water, held up by nothing but buoyancy and brute biological mass. Some recorded individuals have pushed past 3,000 kilograms, heavier than most family cars, heavier than a grand piano times 10. This makes it, officially, the heaviest bony fish species known to science. Not a shark, not a whale, a fish, in the same broad taxonomic category as a goldfish, scaled up to almost unimaginable proportions. Its origins trace back roughly 45 million years, evolving from the same ancestral lineage as pufferfish and porcupine fish, a bloodline built around toxins, spines, and inflation as defense mechanisms. But somewhere along the way, the Mola Mola abandoned almost all of it. No spines, no venom, no inflatable body. It kept scaling up in size and rebuilt its entire survival strategy from scratch, trading every conventional weapon for something stranger, the ability to simply endure. Unlike most large ocean animals confined to specific regions, the Mola Mola turns up almost everywhere. It has been recorded in the cold waters off Norway, the temperate currents of California, the tropical shallows near Bali, and the open swells of the South Atlantic. This astonishing range comes from a combination of factors most fish never manage at once: tolerance for a wide span of water temperatures, a diet flexible enough to follow jellyfish blooms across entire ocean basins, and a body plan that, however strange it looks, is efficient enough to drift vast distances using minimal energy. Tagging studies have tracked individual Mola Mola swimming thousands of kilometers over the course of a year, following prey rather than staking out a fixed territory the way many predators do. Given how exposed this animal is, you would expect it to hide. It does the opposite. The Mola Mola lives in the pelagic zone, the open ocean, one of the most predator-saturated environments on Earth, with no reef to duck behind and no cave to retreat into. And rather than avoid the surface, it does something that looks almost suicidal. It turns sideways and floats motionless in full daylight, a bright pale target visible from the air, from below, and from the surface all at once. This basking behavior looks like carelessness. It is not. Research into the behavior reveals a calculated trade-off. By lying flat at the surface, the Mola Mola actively recruits cleaner species, small fish and seabirds, to strip parasites directly off its skin before infections can take hold. Scientific surveys have documented more than 40 different parasite species living on or inside a single Mola Mola, more than almost any other fish on Earth. Skin parasites, gill parasites, internal parasites burrowing through muscle tissue. Instead of fighting this infestation alone, it turns its own body into a floating clinic, tolerating and even inviting smaller species to work as biological maintenance crews. But basking is only half its life. Tagged individuals have been recorded diving beyond 600 meters into cold, crushing darkness in pursuit of jellyfish and siphonophores, descending into conditions that would slow the metabolism of most warm-adapted animals to dangerous levels. It alternates between these punishing deep dives and surface basking sessions, using the sun-warmed shallows to reheat its core temperature after each cold water hunt. This dive and bask cycle does double duty. Many of its worst surface predators are far less effective hundreds of meters down, so by splitting its life between two environments, the Mola Mola forces its enemies to choose between hunting it in the open shallows or following it into water most of them are not built for. Its diet itself is a quiet marvel of specialization. Jellyfish and siphonophores are almost entirely water and offer very little caloric value per bite, which means the Mola Mola has to consume enormous volumes of these low-energy prey just to sustain a body that can weigh more than a car. Some researchers estimate that an adult must eat several times its own body weight in gelatinous prey over the course of a year simply to maintain itself. It compensates for this poor quality diet with sheer volume and near-constant, unhurried foraging, spending long stretches of its day quietly hunting through the water column for anything soft-bodied and drifting. None of this explains how it survives an actual attack, though, and attacks on the Mola Mola are documented, repeated, and often shockingly casual. Off the coast of California, marine biologists have recorded California sea lions targeting basking sunfish not to feed, but seemingly to play, ripping sections of fin away, flipping the animal over, tossing torn tissue through the water like a toy. It is a behavior that unsettles researchers because it is not driven by hunger. It is opportunistic cruelty, made possible only because the Mola Mola cannot flee and cannot fight back. Blue sharks and short-fin makos are drawn in next, pulled by the scent of blood already in the water, capable of severing large sections of fin or flank in a single strike. For most prey species, a bite like that would be fatal within seconds. For the Mola Mola, it is catastrophic, bloody, and survivable because of what is hiding beneath its skin. The Mola Mola's dermis, the deep structural layer of its skin, can reach up to 7 centimeters thick, thicker than the sole of a hiking boot, thicker than the padding on a boxing glove, wrapped entirely around a living, breathing animal. It is dense, rubbery, and reinforced with cross-linked collagen, the same structural protein that gives human tendons their strength, layered here into something researchers have compared to slicing through dense rubber matting. A sea lion bite, powerful enough to crush bone in smaller prey, frequently fails to reach anything vital against this armor. The attack becomes exactly what was just described, a superficial, agonizing tear, rather than a clean kill. Layered on top of that armor is a thick, continuously secreted mucus coating that acts as both a physical and chemical barrier against waterborne bacteria and parasites, sealing microscopic entry points and making the skin slicker and harder to grip. And because the animal is so enormous, often stretching past 3 or 4 meters, a bite that removes a large chunk of fin represents only a small percentage of its total body mass. A wound that would be catastrophic on a smaller fish becomes, on the Mola Mola, a survivable flesh injury. Scale itself becomes a form of armor. Even after the bite lands, the story is not over. Individuals have been documented swimming for years afterward, scarred but functional, fins visibly regrown. Wound healing in most fish follows a slow, often incomplete sequence for large-scale tissue loss: clotting, inflammation, tissue rebuilding, remodeling. The Mola Mola appears to push this process into overdrive, rapidly sealing wounds, and in many documented cases, partially regrowing damaged sections of fin, closer to what you would expect from a salamander regrowing a limb than a fish recovering from a shark bite. This is where the true scale of the arms race becomes clear. Across a lifetime that can stretch beyond 20 years, a single Mola Mola will be bitten, torn, and mutilated not once, but dozens or possibly hundreds of times. Sea lions treating it as a toy, sharks slicing away flank and fin, seabirds pecking at open wounds from above, Even orcas have been documented targeting Mola Mola in some regions, treating the massive, slow-moving fish as an easy, low-effort meal. In almost every one-on-one encounter, it loses. And yet it keeps surviving them, because every layer of its biology exists for exactly this outcome. Armored skin to absorb the strike, mucus and cleaner mutualists to prevent infection, and rapid tissue regeneration to close the wound before it can turn fatal. Its reproduction follows the same brutal logic. A single female Mola Mola can release up to 300 million eggs in one reproductive cycle, more than almost any other vertebrate on the planet. The overwhelming majority of offspring will never reach adulthood, picked off by predators at every larval and juvenile stage. This is not a design flaw, it is a numbers-based strategy. Rather than protecting a small number of young, the Mola Mola floods the ocean with genetic possibility, so that even a catastrophic loss rate still produces enough survivors to sustain the species. What begins life as a larva, barely a few millimeters wide, can, if it survives long enough, grow to become one of the heaviest bony fish in the sea, a size increase so extreme relative to its starting point that few other vertebrates come close to matching it. There is a particular kind of encounter that captures everything this animal is built for. Researchers off the coast of California once followed a single basking Mola Mola for several hours as it drifted through what should have been a fatal sequence of events. A sea lion mauled its fin, tearing away a visible chunk of tissue and playing with the wound in open water. Gulls descended to peck at the exposed flesh. A blue shark began circling below, drawn by the blood trail spreading through the current. By every rule of ocean survival, that animal should not have made it through the hour. It had no way to outswim any of its attackers, no retaliation available, nothing but its own body standing between it and death. When the frenzy finally passed, researchers watched it simply drift onward, wounded and bleeding, apparently indifferent to what had just happened to it. Weeks later, a Mola Mola, matching the same distinctive scarring pattern, was photographed in the same waters, the torn fin visibly regrown, the wound closed over. It had not escaped the attack, it had absorbed it and kept going. Encounters like this are not isolated. Divers and researchers working in known Mola Mola aggregation sites, where the fish gather seasonally to be cleaned by resident fish populations, have logged the same individuals returning year after year, carrying old, healed scars alongside fresh wounds, a kind of visible timeline of survival written directly onto the animal's body. Some long-tracked individuals carry the marks of encounters with several different predator species simultaneously, a bite radius consistent with a sea lion on one flank, a cleaner, curved slice consistent with a shark strike on the other, and smaller peck marks scattered near the fin edges from opportunistic seabirds. Each mark tells the story of an attack that, by any reasonable expectation, should have ended differently. This is the part of the Mola Mola's story that rarely makes it into the highlight reels. Survival here was never about avoiding violence. It was about whether the body could keep functioning after violence had already happened. Where a shark evolved speed to end a conflict in a single decisive strike, the Mola Mola evolved something almost the opposite: the biological capacity to lose repeatedly and remain standing anyway. There is also a quieter, more unusual survival tactic worth mentioning: the Mola Mola's tolerance for cold. Because its deep dives regularly take it into near-freezing water far below the thermocline, its body has to manage a level of temperature swing that would disorient or incapacitate most warm water fish. Researchers studying tagged individuals have noted that Mola Mola appear to regulate the timing and depth of their dives, partly around this thermal stress, surfacing not just to warm up, but to avoid staying too long in conditions that would otherwise slow their reflexes and leave them even more vulnerable to the predators waiting above. The species faces a very different kind of threat today, one it has no evolved defense for at all. Ocean sunfish are frequently caught as bycatch in commercial fishing operations, meant for entirely different species, sometimes making up a significant share of what gets pulled from the water in certain fisheries before being discarded, dead or dying, back into the sea. In some regions, particularly parts of the Mediterranean and off the coast of Japan and Taiwan, Mola Mola are also targeted directly, their flesh and skin used in local cuisine and traditional remedies, adding deliberate harvest on top of the accidental losses from other fisheries. Neither pressure is something 45 million years of evolution ever prepared this animal to withstand, because neither existed for the overwhelming majority of that history. Plastic pollution compounds the danger in an unexpected way. Floating plastic bags closely resemble the jellyfish that make up much of the Mola Mola's diet, and animals that mistake one for the other can suffer fatal intestinal blockages. Necropsies on stranded individuals have, in a number of documented cases, turned up exactly this kind of debris lodged in the digestive tract. A grim confirmation of a threat that was largely theoretical until researchers started actually looking for it. Boat strikes present another modern hazard entirely outside its evolutionary experience. An animal that spends long stretches basking motionless at the surface is, by that same behavior, placed directly in the path of vessel traffic in increasingly busy coastal waters, with little ability to detect or avoid a fast-moving hull bearing down from above. An animal that survived 45 million years of being bitten, torn and mauled by nature's most efficient predators is now facing threats it has never evolved a single defense against, because they were never part of the deal it made with the ocean. Every adaptation described so far, the armor, the mucus, the regeneration, the reproductive flood of eggs, was shaped by a world of teeth, claws, and jaws. None of it was built with a fishing net or a floating plastic bag in mind, and that mismatch is precisely why a species this resilient against natural predation can still be pushed toward decline by threats that, on paper, look far less dramatic than a shark bite. Scientists have only recently begun to appreciate just how much individual variation exists within this apparent uniformity of design. For decades, the ocean sunfish was treated as a single species, a lone strange outlier drifting through every ocean on the planet. Genetic and morphological work in more recent years has revealed that what was long considered one animal is actually a small cluster of closely related giant sunfish species, differing subtly in body shape, skull structure, and the exact proportions of that strange rudder-like clavus. Some of these relatives grow even larger than the classic Mola Mola, while others favor slightly different depth ranges or prey. This quiet taxonomic complexity went unnoticed for so long, precisely because almost nobody was looking closely at an animal most assumed was simply floating out its days, half dead, at the surface. That assumption of passivity extends to how the species interacts with the rest of the ocean community around it, and it turns out to be almost entirely wrong. Far from being a passive floating target, the Mola Mola actively participates in a web of relationships that most viewers would never expect from an animal this large and this strange. At known cleaning stations, specific reefs and kelp beds where cleaner fish congregate, Mola Mola have been observed adjusting their posture in the water, angling a wounded or parasite-heavy flank directly toward waiting cleaner fish, almost as if presenting the exact area that needs attention. Divers working these sites describe individuals holding remarkably still for extended periods, tolerating the presence of human observers in a way few other large pelagic animals do, seemingly prioritizing the cleaning process over any instinct to flee. This kind of deliberate, repeated engagement with a specific behavior at specific locations is exactly the sort of pattern that separates a hardwired reflex from something closer to a learned strategy. There is a second layer to its relationship with the birds that circle it as well. While gulls and other seabirds are documented opportunistically pecking at open wounds, a separate and far more common interaction involves birds landing directly on a basking Mola Mola's back to pick parasites from the skin in a mutually beneficial exchange, free of any harm to the fish. The line between predator and partner in this animal's world is often a matter of which specific wound is being addressed and by which species, a level of nuance that undercuts the simple predator versus prey framing most ocean documentaries default to. Not every human interaction with this species is destructive, and the contrast is worth noting. In certain waters off Bali, the Azores, and parts of California, Mola Mola sightings have grown into a dedicated branch of dive tourism, with operators building entire trips around the seasonal chance to encounter one of these animals at a known cleaning station. For an animal that spent most of its evolutionary history being torn apart by predators, with no way to fight back, being approached by a diver with a camera is, by comparison, an almost gentle form of attention, and the resulting photographs and footage have done more to popularize this strange, misunderstood giant than a century of scientific papers ever could. It is a rare case where human curiosity about an animal's vulnerability has translated into protection rather than exploitation, even as other pressures from fishing and pollution continue to work against it elsewhere. Put all of this together, and the picture becomes clear. The Mola Mola is not surviving through a single miracle adaptation. It survives through a coordinated system: armored skin to absorb the strike, mucus, and cleaner mutualists to prevent infection, rapid regeneration to close the wound, thermal cycling to manage the punishing physics of deep water hunting, a near-global range that lets it follow prey rather than depend on a single vulnerable territory, and a reproductive strategy that treats individual loss as statistically irrelevant to species survival. Every layer exists because the layer before it was not enough on its own. Evolution's version of redundancy engineering. Not one perfect defense, but dozens of imperfect ones, stacked until the odds of total failure become vanishingly small. What makes this story genuinely rare is how rarely nature produces this exact combination. An animal exposed enough to be attacked constantly, yet equipped just well enough to survive that constant exposure indefinitely. Most species land on one side or the other. Either they are fast and armored enough to avoid serious damage in the first place, or they are fragile enough that a single serious attack ends things. The Mola Mola sits in a strange middle ground almost nothing else occupies. Attacked often, wounded often, and built specifically to keep functioning anyway. So here is the question worth sitting with. In a world obsessed with apex predators, the fastest, the strongest, the most lethal, is an animal built entirely around surviving loss actually the more successful design? It never won a single fight against a shark or a sea lion. It never needed to. It only needed to survive enough of them, long enough, for the math of evolution to work in its favor. Somewhere in the Pacific right now, one of these scarred, wounded, endlessly patient giants is drifting sideways in the sun, waiting for the next attack it already knows how to survive.